Whoa. Right off the bat, we're thrown into months of tension. Notice how fast things escalate. Month 49, and already you can feel the simmering conflict. Quick question for you. Have you ever had a disagreement that just kept snowballing? Let's see how this unfolds.
So that was around month 4. You say you'll try. Fast forward, we're at 9 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that day, when you're actually out at Bogash, specifically, are there any arguments between you and Cole?
Yeah, well, the first argument started with the whole football player, me playing with the guy, football.
Okay. Was there another?
And then another argument occurred when he threw the seltzer at me, on my face. I got very upset in front of everyone. I just yelled at him, and at that point, he was not there. Like, he was laughing at me. You could tell that he didn't recognize what he had just done. I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think he threw a seltzer at me. He was throwing a bunch of seltzer in the area that I was in.
Okay, so
but it did hit me, and
so
I got very upset. So that was another argument.
Okay. Was there another argument that took place?
Yeah, so from there, I just wanted to distance myself, so I went, I guess, back to the original boat, not Sebas, but some other person's boat that I believe was his friend. And there is when he tried to talk to me and apologize, and at that point I was very frustrated, and I just wanted to leave. I did not want to be there anymore.
Okay, so when you're having that discussion on Sebas' boat, are Sebas and his group of people looking to leave?
So Sebas had already left for the day. This is another person's boat.
Okay, so this wasn't the boat that you guys were originally on?
Exactly.
Is this captained by Captain Doobie, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was a white friend of his.
Okay, so you're on this boat, and you decide at this point that you want to leave.
Yes.
You want to leave the party?
Yeah, I just want to leave in general. I didn't feel happy. It was a lot of anxiety. It was just not a good feeling. It was horrible. And
did Cole want to leave?
No, Cole just kept trying to talk to me and kept trying to say I'm sorry.
Look at this. What starts as an apology turns into a cat and mouse chase on the boat. He's following, she's fleeing, and the tension is almost cinematic. Pause for a second. How would you react if someone just wouldn't leave you alone? Even after you made it clear? This is where personal boundaries get tested big time.
And I wasn't trying to hear it, so it was just a game of when a cat's chasing a mouse. So we were on the boat, going to the front, the back, the front, the back. He kept following me. He wasn't understanding that I just wanted to be left alone and was not happy. And then that's when things just got worse.
Okay, so were you making yourself clear though that you didn't want to be with him?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so how did it get worse?
So what I remember is being on the back of the boat, and he had put me on a hold. He was holding me.
Okay, so you're gesturing in front of you.
Yeah.
You have your arms out, kind of like a hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it from the front or from behind that he held you?
He was from behind.
And here's the escalation. Physical contact that crosses a line. From a legal standpoint, this is critical. Unwanted touching and restraint can quickly become assault. Notice how she describes a biting and digging of nails. These aren't minor scuffles. This is exactly the moment where intent and consent start to matter in court.
And we had we went down, so now our butts are on the floor of the boat.
Okay.
And then he wasn't trying to let go. He wasn't trying to let go. At one point, he bit me, and he dug his nails in me. And at this point, I felt violated, so I started screaming to get off me. I think I was cursing a lot. I wasn't happy, and I kept telling him, get off, and he just didn't want to let go of me. And then at one point, I just
Everyone's watching, filming, and barely intervening. Think about that. Witnesses, yet minimal action. How often do we freeze in the face of conflict instead of stepping in? Comment below if you think bystanders should have acted differently. It's a tricky moral line.
I like wiggle out of his hands, so I'm able to break free, and then I get shoved in the water. So that's how I end up in the water.
Okay. Was there music playing on this boat? If
I
you
don't
remember.
remember.
Okay. Do you remember Bogash being loud?
Yes.
Okay. Safe to say, do you know if anybody heard you screaming?
Yeah, I think they started filming. Oh, sorry.
She can answer if she knows.
Everyone watched the show, all his buddies, not one person intervened. I believe like one girl was like, hey, stop, you know, but the guy of the boat that, I don't know if he owns it or whatever, he did not intervene at all to help his friend. Like no one tried to stop what was happening, and everybody, I think someone even took out a phone and started filming it. So
Did you know these people on this boat?
No.
Okay. So if you saw them filming, were you able to provide anybody any names for who might have been filming?
If you showed me a photo of the
Okay.
people on the boat, maybe.
But you would need that. You would need the photo of that person to tell us.
Yeah, it's been a few years, so my brain is kind of.
Okay, so did you physically try to get away from Cole when he was holding you on the floor?
Yes,
Okay. How were you doing that?
I just wiggled out of his arms.
Okay. And so then you're pushed in the water.
Yes, shoved.
Okay. Prior to being pushed in, had you told him anything specifically?
And from what I remember, I think I told him things like it's over. I was insulting him. I was just very angry with him. So I don't think I said anything pleasant, to be honest.
Okay, so you broke up with him. How long do you think you had been at Bogash at this point?
Probably like 5 to 6 hours. I don't know. It could have been less. It could have been more.
Okay. What were you wearing?
Swimwear, red swimwear.
Showing you what's been moved into evidence. States 2, A,
Oh, orange.
and B,
Yeah,
orange, red.
yeah,
Is that you?
yeah,
Okay. Is this what you were wearing?
yeah.
When you're taken into the water, do you have anything with you?
No, all my belongings were on the boat, and one of his friends was there, and I remember saying, like, give me my things, and he was like, no, come on, come back, and I was just, like, screaming at the friend too, give me my things, and the guy didn't want to give it to me, so at that point, I just started swimming.
Okay. Did you have your phone?
I think it got wet, yeah, at some point.
Did you have it with you?
The day of Bogash, yes.
Did you have it when you were on the boat that you later entered into?
Yeah, I think that eventually, like, the bag, whatever my phone was in, was thrown in the water when I asked for it. So I grabbed the bag and started swimming.
Okay. Did the phone get wet?
Yes.
Was it operable when you finally
No.
got onto another boat?
No.
Okay, so if you're holding it in the investigation later.
She's swimming, grabbing a floaty, trying to survive. This is a tense survival moment. The story shifts from confrontation to self-preservation. Quick recap. Arguments escalated, physical restraint occurred, and now we see her resourcefulness under pressure. The narrative is really pivoting here.
Were you able to use it?
No, it was completely broken.
Okay. Did the other people on the boat, we'll get there, but did the other people on that boat try to arrange an Uber for you? Sarah
In
checks
that
in the
Paris boat?
Yes. Afterwards, when everything was done, were they trying to get you an Uber?
I think everybody was just trying to help. I don't remember who was trying to call an Uber.
Was that because you couldn't call an Uber yourself, or was it for another reason?
I think I mentioned my phone was broken.
Okay. So you're in the water. You have your phone. After you ask for your things, you do get it. And what happens then?
So I started swimming, and initially my goal was to just swim where I saw land, and the only thing I could see was straight ahead. So as I was swimming that direction, it was a bit rough for me, so that's when I ended up in the floaty. I think it was Matt or someone that was on his boat or his wife, but I ended up holding onto the floaty.
Okay, so you approach a boat.
Yes.
Okay, permission to approach. Okay, do you recognize this picture? Or what's in the picture?
I don't. Is that Matt Paris's boat?
If you don't recognize it,
It could be.
okay, do you see yourself in that picture?
Oh, yes, I see. I think that's Cole holding on. Is that him when yeah, that's the boat.
So, are you able to identify yourself in it?
Yes.
Do you remember being on that boat that day?
Yeah, after the gentleman saved me, yeah.
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate representation of what that boat looked like in the water on April 24th,
I
2022?
believe so, yes.
Okay. State would move state 7 into evidence as state 7.
And I'll receive it in that, so that objection is exhibit number 7.
There's a Sharpie. If you could mark where you were when you first made contact with that boat
Okay.
and put a C.
Okay. Okay, right here.
And then can you also put an M where you saw Matt Paris, if you remember? When
the
you saw him.
beginning or
Yeah, when
the-
you first saw him.
Yeah, he was right next to me.
Okay. And was there anybody else in the water when you first swam up there?
Maybe his wife, I don't remember.
Okay. Was anybody else on that boat?
Yes, I think there was like 2 additional couples.
Okay, and they were on the boat.
I think so.
Okay. State would publish state 7. So you swim up to this boat, and what happens?
So if I remember correctly, I had like lost some, I was having difficulties breathing. So I believe I just kind of like hung on the floaty and said, do you mind if I just take a few seconds?
Okay,
Something of that nature.
So is it Matt Paris that's in the water?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and he has a floaty?
Yes, he has a floaty, and then I'm pretty sure his wife said, oh, let me get you one, and then that's how I ended up on my own floaty.
Okay, so someone throws you a floaty after you kind of latch on to his?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're holding on to this floaty, you ask them if you could just stay there for a second.
Yes.
How long would you estimate you were there, speaking to them before something else happened?
Probably, it was a few minutes, it was not long. It was very quickly.
And at that point, when you were near that boat, were there other boats around that boat? If you remember?
I don't know.
Okay, you were really paying attention?
Underwater, unable to breathe, and thinking she might die. This is peak intensity. From a legal perspective, prolonged underwater restraint without consent can have severe consequences. And emotionally, imagine the panic and fear. Audience, take a moment to let that sink in. This is why witness testimony about duration and actions is so pivotal.
Or you...
To my surroundings, no.
Okay, so you stop in front of this boat.
Exactly.
All right, what happens then?
So the couple was asking me how I was enjoying Bogash, and I was...
Without getting into specifics about what you said or what they said.
Okay, so after our little chit chat that took place a few minutes, I just remember being dragged in the water. Initially I thought it was like a shark or something. I thought it was an aggressive animal. The last thing on my mind was thinking it was Cole. But then when I was under the water and I looked in front of me is when I saw Cole's body, his shoulders, and
So did he come up from in front of you?
no, he From what I remember, I like got dragged in from the back, like it was one of those, because the floaty came from up front on top, and then,
Do you remember where you were grabbed?
yes, I remember in the water, he had his hands on my neck. That's what I remember.
Okay.
And I kept trying to like get his hands off me, I kept trying to kick him, but he wasn't being like responsive, he just kept jolting my neck back and forth.
How long would you estimate you were under the water?
You know, I don't know, I've been asked that question. It feels like a lifetime, I'm not sure, but for sure, it had to be like a few minutes, at least over 30 seconds, I don't know. At the end of the day, the gentleman jumped in the water, so I don't think it was minutes, right? Because he saw something, he jumped in, right? He saw something was wrong. But I can't sit here and say it was 47 seconds. I wasn't counting the seconds.
So it felt like a long time to you, but you can't tell us how long.
Yeah, it felt like a very, very long time, and he wasn't letting go, and
Okay, so, just to break that down for a minute, could you breathe under the water? Had you held your breath, kind of taken a big breath and held it prior to being put in the water?
probably.
Okay, so how, were you having a hard time breathing and holding your breath and having enough breath?
I don't remember,
Let me ask it to you like this. Have you ever been a little kid in a pool? Were you ever small and playing in the pool? Okay, did you ever play a game where you would hold your breath and see how long you could hold it?
I don't think I was playing the game here, holding my breath. I think I was trying to survive, and I don't know what that looks like.
Right, so I'm asking you a question though. Did you ever do that? When you were small?
Probably, yes.
Okay. How was it different this time from that? Did you have enough air to breathe? Did you save up enough air to go underwater for a long time when Mr. Goldberg put his hands on your neck and put you underwater?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't recall. I don't know if I did take a gasp of air. I didn't see it coming. So I'm pretty sure when I was under, I was freaking out because I could not breathe. And it was a very like scary moment.
So under the water, at any point, did you realize you don't have enough air?
Yeah, I thought I was gonna die.
Did you give him permission to touch you when he put you under the water?
No.
How, you indicated somebody jumped in. Was that in addition to the person that was already in the water with you?
Matt Paris?
Yes.
Yeah, Matt Paris jumped in and dragged me out the water.
Okay. When you kind of resurfaced, what happened?
When I resurfaced, I think everybody was a bit scared, like they didn't know what was happening. And I tried my best to act like nothing happened, everything's fine.
Do you remember anybody saying anything to the defendant?
Yeah, I remember they were very angry with him. They didn't want him to come near us. He kept trying to call me. I felt really bad because he was at the point of like no return, and I'm not trying to leave anyone in that type of situation. That was never our goal. We were meant to have a good day, and it just turned out to be a nightmare. So I remember at one point I tried to like calm him down, told him everything was gonna be okay.
Okay, before we get there, was there any point where he said anything other than your name? When you're in the water, you've just resurfaced, everyone you said is mad, yelling, does he say anything other than your name?
Yeah, he was trying to talk to me. When he was like hanging on that side piece of the boat, he was crying. He was just so like, hurt and.
Okay, so after you resurfaced, where do you go?
I think I went inside the boat. They were trying to make sure I was fine. And then at one point I I saw Cole calling me.
Okay. Do we want to stop?
Seems like a natural stop, please.